For the shirt, I used my Red Heart Super Saver, and this is baby pink yarn. The first thing we're going to do is take the yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through the loop for a slip knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 30. I'm just going to show you 4 of them. You're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 30, and then come back. So after you make your chain of 30, then hold that last stitch with your middle finger and your thumb, and then make a chain of 2 for the second row. 1, 2. That's going to count as your first half double crochet for the next row. So then just yarn over, and then you're going to go into the third chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. Let's go into that third chain, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through all 3 for a half double crochet, and then you're just going to make 1 half double crochet into every stitch back across. And then come back. So I just finished my last half double crochet. Now you can slip stitch it to form a circle, and you have to decide which side you want to be showing, which side will be the right side. So this side is going to be my wrong side, so I'm going to make sure that that is on the inside of my circle, and this is my right side, which will be on the outside. So then once you've formed your circle, then make sure you don't twist it. You don't want it twisted. Then you're just going to take and go into that top stitch of the first chain 2 that you made for the second row. So you can see how I'm going right into that top stitch for a slip stitch. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to chain 2 to get ready for the next round. There's 1 and there's 2. Now before we continue on to the second round, you're going to go ahead and use that loose yarn end on the bottom to join the bottom of the circle. So you just take your tapestry needle, put it onto that loose yarn end on the bottom, and then you're just going to take and sew the bottom. Go into that first chain of the first chain 2 that you made for the second row, and so you join it into a nice circle. Make sure that you tie a knot to secure it, and you don't want it loose, so pull it tight so that it's together. Go again, and then you can back into the loop for a knot. And then I like to go twice, and then don't worry about burying the loose yarn end at this time. Just leave it dangling so I have a nice knot to secure it. Then you can go back up to where we left off. So we have our chain 2, and then you're going to make a half double crochet into the next stitch over, so yarn over, and then go into that next stitch, bring up a loop, and then make your half double crochet. And then you're just going to make 1 half double crochet in every stitch around, back to where you started, and then come back. So I just finished my last half double crochet on the round. Now I'm going to make a slip stitch to the top stitch of that first chain 2 that we made for the rounds. You just go into that top stitch and then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then go ahead and chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're just going to repeat 1 half double crochet in every stitch around, and then make a slip stitch just like we did for the previous round. And you're going to make 2 more rounds of 1 half double crochet in every stitch around. So I just finished my last round. You can see I have a total of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, counting my first one. Then I'm going to go ahead and make my slip stitch into the top stitch of the first chain 2 I made. Just yarn over and turn the hook upside down and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook. Then you can go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the shirt in place. But first we're going to make the decorative portion, and on this one I'm going to make a decorative portion on the bottom and the top, but you can decide if you just want it on the bottom or if you just want on both. Or you could just put it on the top, whatever you decide. So this is the bottom. I turned it upside down. I'm going to take my crochet hook and just join where I have my loose yarn end. And I'm going to switch up the colors. I'm going to join the Pretty in Pink color. So you can use either the same color or you can use a new color, whatever you want for your mermaid doll. So just bring up a loop. Then go ahead and chain 1, and then just tie a knot. So you can just leave the loose yarn ends. We're going to bury those on the inside when we sew it onto the mermaid, so you don't have to worry about those. Then you're just going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then slip stitch into the next stitch. So go into the next stitch, yarn over, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. Back to the beginning. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 3, and then you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. You see how it creates a cute little ruffle at the bottom. Then I made it all the way around, and this is what mine looks like. I made my last chain 3. Now I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch. So just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury in your work. So now you want to take the top portion and mark the armholes. So you just want to center the back. Where I have the loose yarn end is the back, and then this is the front. So you want 7 stitches for each armhole. So here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm not counting the stitch with the yarn markers. And then just place each of your yarn markers, making sure that you have 7 stitches for each armhole. So now you're going to join. This is the front is facing me, and I'm going to the left, and I have my yarn marker in place. I'm going to go in the stitch before my yarn marker. I'm going to bring up a loop, and then chain 1. Go ahead and tie a knot. Then you're going to go into the next stitch over where the yarn marker is. Go ahead and remove that yarn marker. Make a single crochet. Then chain 1. Turn your work. Go into that stitch where you joined. Bring up a loop, chain 1. Chain 1. Turn your work. Single crochet into the next stitch over, so you only have 2 stitches for each row, and you're just going to start creating your strap. So chain 1, turn your work, go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, make a single crochet, chain 1, and you just keep repeating. Then you just keep repeating until you have a total of 14 rows. Then go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the strap down onto the doll. And then we're going to repeat this on the other side. So you can see I have a strap that's going to loop around to the other armhole. So now we're going to work the other armhole. So you're going to go ahead and the exact same way, we're going to join in the stitch before in front of the yarn marker. And then just tie a knot. And then repeat what you did for the other side on this side of the front. So this is what my straps look like. And here's the back of the dress. You can see how the straps will come down on the doll. Now for mine, I want to add a little ruffle, pink ruffle to the top. So if you like that, I'm going to show you how to do that. Go ahead and put the straps on the inside of the dress. Then you're going to take and join in the back. And you can go ahead and remove the yarn markers, because we already know that each one's going to have 7 stitches. I just had you put that so you can see how the straps are going to connect in the back. Then you're just going to take and join in the back of the dress next to where you have the loose yarn end. And I'm using my Pretty in Pink color, the same as the bottom ruffle. So I'm going to join the same way I did for the bottom. Just tie a knot. Then you can chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into the next stitch and just repeat all the way around. When you reach your first strap, come back and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, so you can see how I made the ruffle. Now I've come to my first strap. And you just keep crocheting the same way as if the strap weren't there. Making my slip stitch, chain 3, and then slip stitch. Just slip stitch around the strap. And you just continue on. Oop. Brought in one of the loose yarn ends. Just slip stitching and chaining 3, and then the strap you can see will come up to go on the shoulder. So I just finished my last chain 3. I'm going to slip stitch into that first chain 3 stitch that I made, and then just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. So this is what the top looks like so far. You can see my straps. Just make sure that the loose yarn ends are on the inside. I just trimmed mine, and then I have the long ends that I'm going to be using for sewing on the outside. You can place a button on your top if you want to. I'm going to place a blue button on the top of mine. And I used Crafting with Buttons, these beautiful turquoise colored buttons. And these are nice because they have a large hole on the back, but I'm going to use a smaller tapestry needle to sew it on with. You could use just a regular sewing needle and thread, but I like to use yarn to sew my buttons on. So I'm using this tapestry needle that will fit right through the back easily, and it has a large eye for putting the yarn through. I just use my DMC yarn threader to get the yarn through the eye of the needle. And I was able to go through twice with my yarn. Then I just take and tie a knot on the back to secure the button. I'm just going to tie it 3 times and then just leave a short loose yarn end on the back. Now you're ready to place the shirt onto the body. Just make sure that you have the front on the side that you want for your mermaid tail before you sew it in place. And before you sew it in place, go ahead and sew the head onto the body. That way you can make sure that when you go to sew the body on, the shirt on, that you can move it how you want to secure it. So make sure that the head has plenty of craft stuffing in it, and center the head on the body. I have a loose yarn end on the body too. I'm going to move that aside for now, and then just center the head. Make sure that the head is straight and facing the way that you want it to face. Then you just go in and out the body and the head, sewing it and making sure that your head stays as straight as possible. And then if I come out on the head, then I just go a stitch over and then go down into the body and then back up with my tapestry needle. You can always come back multiple times around to secure the head onto the body. So you can see how I'm just going in and out of the head and the body all the way around. Now you can see how I sewed around the head to the body. Now your head will flop because it's heavy, so I'm going to show you how to secure the head so that it won't flop around. But for now we're just going to secure it to the body. And then on the back you just take, after you've tied your knot, we're going to bury the loose yarn in, so you just take and put it onto your tapestry needle. And then you go right in where you tied your knot, come out anywhere on the head or the body, and then I like to go about a stitch over and then go through again. This will really secure the loose yarn end, and then go ahead and trim it. Now for the pearl necklace, I'm using my very tiny tapestry needle. This one's very thin. It'll fit right through the hole of my pearl, and it also has a large eye for putting your monofilament, which is very strong, like fishing wire. And then the beads, of course, that I used were the 12-inch by Doris. Then I just took my monofilament and I'm tying a knot on one end so that the pearls won't come off. Make sure that you leave a little bit of a loose yarn end, monofilament end, so that you can tie a knot easier when you're finished. So now you can go ahead and put your tapestry needle through. If you need help, you can use your DMC yarn threader. And then just bring through about 5 inches of a loose yarn end so it doesn't come out of the needle. Then you just take and string all of your pearls that you want. Make sure it fits around the neck of your doll and they slide on easily. So now you can see I just made sure that it fits around the neck of my doll before I tie a knot. And this is where you can add a locket if you want to. This is what the other doll looks like with her locket, and this locket will open up for pictures. For this doll, I'm not using a locket, so I'm going to go ahead and finish tying a knot. And you want to make sure that the pearls are touching as you tie your knot. And then I like to tie several knots, about 7 knots. Because we're going to trim one side of the loose yarn end. And then after you tie your 7 knots, leave the long end for sewing, and then take and trim the other short side. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle and attach it to the long end, because we're going to sew and secure the pearls around the neck. So you will need these beads to help hold the mermaid's head up, and the size that I used was a 12-inch strung glass pearls, or 30.48 centimeters, and this is by Doris, and it comes enough for 2 dolls. I used my Beadalon Supplement 0.010 inch 0.25 millimeter monofilament for the pearls, and I also used a very thin tapestry needle with a large eye so the monofilament will fit right through, and then you can string the bead. Now you could use a needle and thread, but it won't be as strong as the monofilament. I tied a knot on one end of the monofilament to keep the beads from falling off, and also keep a long loose end on the end of the monofilament behind the knot. Then you can use your DMC threader to help get the monofilament on your tapestry needle, and then you're ready to just feed the beads onto the monofilament. You can see how they stop right on the knot that I tied, and just string all of the beads on. I had 17 beads on mine. And what's nice about these strung glass pearls is that they tied a knot between the 2 sets of pearls. There's actually more on this second set, but I'm only going to use 17. And then I just took the pearls around the neck of the doll, and I want to put a locket on mine. The locket that I chose is by the Gilded Age Timeline by Bead Treasure. I actually got it half off with a coupon. You can use whatever locket that you want for your doll. This one opens up. After I placed the locket, I just took and tied a knot. And I'm tying several knots. And make sure that the pearls are close to each other and the locket when you're tying it. This is what mine looks like after putting the locket on. And now I'm just going to put the monofilament onto my tapestry needle. I'm going to center the beads on the neck, the front of the locket. The locket will be in the front. And then I'm just going to take and sew my beads in place with the monofilament. So I'm going to go in between the beads with my monofilament into the body So on the locket there's a little gap on the loop, so I'm going to retie the monofilament through the loop without any opening. And now it's secure. So I left that in so you won't make that same mistake. I went through the loop on the locket without an opening on the clasp. And then I'm just going in and out, sewing around the pearls so they won't move around, and just securing it with the monofilament, and then nobody can see it, the monofilament. So then you just take and sew around the pearls with the monofilament just to secure the pearls around the neck of your mermaid. Then when I'm finished, I just tied a knot and then trimmed the loose yarn end, and this is what the pearls look like when I'm finished. So then I just put my mermaid necklace on. I made mine so it's not going to be able to take it off, but you can make yours. If you want to make it so it comes off, then you would probably just, well, let me see how you could do that. You would just have to put it on after putting the secure. I'm going to put a wire onto the back. So you would just make sure that when you put the wire, you would leave a gap so that you can slide the latch out if you wanted to make it so it's removable. But for mine, I'm just going to secure it on. So I wrapped it around twice, the necklace portion, and then latched it on the back, and then it fit perfectly. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring the shirt up and then sew the shirt in place. So I'm going to make sure that the button stays in the front and then sew the shirt down. So the first thing you want to do is just make sure that the shirt is centered on the front. Then you just take your long end that you left for sewing, or the same color of yarn as your shirt, and just bring it to sew along the bottom portion of the shirt. Leave the ruffle so that it just hangs. All of the loose yarn ends are trimmed and left on the inside. Make sure that they don't show. You can bury them if you want to. I just keep them on the inside. But I always make sure that you can't see them. I always don't like it when people leave the loose yarn ends hanging. It just looks like sloppy work. So you just want to make sure it's nice and clean and that the loose yarn ends won't come out. Make sure that you leave room for the arms. Now before we sew the straps down, I'm going to show you how to make the arms. For the arms, you're going to start with a magic circle, just like we've done before. We're going to make our slip knot, and then you're going to place 8 single crochet into the magic circle. So 8. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you just take and hold the base of the 8 single crochet with your forefinger and thumb. Then close the magic circle just like you did before. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other loop. Then you just take and close, pulling the loose yarn end. Now you're only going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So 1 single crochet into every stitch around, which will give you a total stitch count of 8. Then you can take and pull on the loose yarn end on the back to close up the magic circle. And to help you keep track of where you are, how many rounds you've made, go ahead and take your yarn marker and place it. I'm just using my scrap of yarn again. And then you just make one single crochet into every stitch around. It's only one single crochet in every stitch around. So then, after you go ahead and make 14 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Then you can take and fold the two ends together. You're going to chain one. You're going to go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, make a single crochet, and then make a single crochet in every stitch across, sewing the two ends together. Which will leave me with 5 stitches. Then you can go ahead and chain one, turn your work, go into the next stitch over for a single crochet, so that's 2 stitches, next stitch over for a single crochet, and that's 3, next stitch over for a single crochet, that's 4, and then the last stitch for 5. And then you're just going to do that 2 more times. Just repeat it 2 more times. I'm just going to go ahead and finish it with you. So chain one, turn, then after you finish your last stitch, go ahead and finish off and bring enough yarn through to sew this arm onto the doll. And then you can see how you have the arm and now we're going to make the thumb. So make sure that if it's the left and the right that you'll always have the thumb facing up. So I'm going to go from the magic circle down 1, 2, and then beneath the second row I'm going to join my yarn, bring up a loop, chain one, and then tie a knot. And then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into the bottom of the stitch. Bring the yarn through both loops on the hook. Then you can go ahead and finish off, just yarn through and bring enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then that just creates a little thumb. And then you can bury your loose yarn ends. Just take your tapestry needle and then just bring the yarn through the center of the arm. And then I like to go back through 1 stitch over and then just bury the loose yarn end. And do that with the other loose yarn end. So then of course you just need 2 of them. Make sure that you have the thumb facing up, one for the left and then one for the right arm. Then you just take and sew the arm in place, and you can see how I have the thumb facing up, and I'm lining it up on the side of the body, and I use the ear as a imaginary line. And then I just sewed down the flap, that flat portion of the arm only. I'm just going in and out and just sewing it in place. And then I'm just going to tie a knot when I'm finished. So you can see how I sewed the flap of the arm down. Then, after I tied my knot, I'm going to bury my loose yarn end. So I'm just going to come out anywhere. And then I'm going to come a stitch over and then bury it again. Just helps it so the loose yarn ends don't come out. I found it's better to do that. And then just trim it and do the same on the other side. Then after you get the arms sewn on, you can take the straps and take your tapestry needle and just sew the straps in place. For mine, I just sewed up along this strap. I'm just sewing it to the dress too. And then I just come up through the strap and just sew the strap in place. And then this is what she looks like with her arms in place and the straps of her shirt. Now I'm going to show you how to put the wire on the back to secure the head to the body.